Hi, everyone. Therese Tucker here. Welcome to the New Earth Leadership Summit, guiding spiritual entrepreneurs like you to step into their personal power to become the new leaders of New Earth. And I am here with Scott Catamas, who is the love coach. He is the love coach, and I can't wait to tell you more about Scott. Just a quick snapshot, because Scott has lived a really full life. And I think it's a beautiful example of what leadership is. Scott, you've been an Emmy award-winning producer of television shows for major networks. You've produced a feature film called Men in Love. You are one of the forefront leaders on Sacred Sexuality, presenting that to the masses. You have trained coaches as well as guided over 1,000 couples in the Love Coaching Academy. And you lead hundreds of workshops, and you've trained scores of coaches. And now, since the pandemic, wait, there's more, guys, there's more. Since the pandemic, Scott has produced over 400 live online shows that have reached over 200,000 views. And this includes popular shows like Saturday Night Alive, which I love that. I love that title. Straight Talk, Sacred Sundays with Scott, and one of my favorites, The Awakening World. And if you want to learn more about Scott, I'm going to tell you how you can actually get in touch with Scott at the end, but you can also go to thelovecoachacademy.com and theglobalpeacetribe.com or globalpeacetribe.com. Scott, welcome to the summit.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, wow. That guy's done a lot of stuff.
Hi. Has
Yeah.
left an impression on the world. And I am so honored to have you here to speak with us about New Earth, which I know is a favorite topic of yours,
Oh,
as well as what leadership is and how we can all step up into leadership as we are creating the new earth that's in front of us. So the first question I have for you, Scott, is how did you make this transition from working in television? It seems like you were doing really well in television yourself, into becoming a love coach and a spiritual guide for people.
yeah, thank you. Well, I got off to an early start in television. I produced my first television show at age 22 and won an Emmy for it at age 23. And I was in LA, born and raised in Los Angeles. And also television production, it's kind of a young man's job to a large degree. And so by the time I was in my mid 40s, I had already been doing television for 20 years. And by that time, Suchi, who we were just talking about, my wife who passed away, but she was ready to be with me, and she lived up in the Bay Area. And I met Marshall Rosenberg. I was hired by Marshall, who's the founder of Nonviolent Communication, also known as Compassionate Communication. I was hired to do a TV show with him and a series of videos. And I absolutely fell in love with his work. And so it all kind of came together, and it was a transition period. But
Yeah.
over a transition of about 5 years, I did go from Scott, the LA guy living in Los Angeles producing television, who was getting a little bit old for that stuff, right? Because mid 40s, um, and Scott, who became a relationship coach, because at that point I was finally with the woman of my dreams, and we were getting together, and she lived in the Bay Area and really wanted me to leave LA and come up and be up here. Um, and so it all kind of came together, to be honest. And when I traveled with Marshall, I traveled with him for 3 weeks. He blew my mind because I saw him working with every imaginable population, from teachers and very educated people to working in the prison system, working with
Wow.
convicted felons, helping everybody he met change their life. And what he taught me is, if you want to change your life, change your relationships, because life
Mhm.
is relationship. And so
Oh,
often we get lost in, like right now, it's easy to get lost in what's going on in the world. But the fact is, I have no impact on what Vladimir Putin does. I have no impact over Biden or Trump or anybody like that.
yeah.
But I have tremendous impact on my relationships, whether it's family, friends, loved ones, people I work with, people I live with, or just how I treat the person at the grocery store. That's where we have our impact, is in our relationships. And Marshall had developed a way of immediately transforming our relationships that was easy and simple and worked, no matter no matter who you were and no matter who you were relating with. And this just blew my mind. And so it all kind of came together, and I started teaching. I did a whole series of shows with Marshall, started teaching it, and then kind of being the entrepreneurial guy that I've always been, um, took the best of Marshall, adapted it, evolved it in my own way, which he supported. I was
Yeah.
really proud of, I would say, Marshall, I took this tool, but this is how I teach it now. And he was always supportive of that. So I was, that's great, Scott. I love that. And I'm the same way now. I give it to my love coaches and then take it and make it your own. I'm not proprietary, just as Marshall was not proprietary.
Yeah.
Uh, so and I also incorporated some of what I had learned also from Tony Robbins and neurolinguistic programming, and also from my emotional intelligence work. So, really, love coaching is a combination of what I learned from Marshall and many, many other teachers.
All right. This is so good. So many things are coming to my mind. I just want to point out, or I want to acknowledge that both you and Marshall are excellent examples of mentorship.
Mm,
Excellent examples of mentorship. And when it comes to entrepreneurs, I think all of us have been in that zone of imposter syndrome,
mm,
right? Where we think if we're not creating something new, then we are, like you said, we're like stealing it from another
yeah.
who's creating it. And one of the messages I heard recently in a podcast I was listening to, and I wish I could note it, but the message I remember is that there is nothing new under the sun, which we all know there's nothing new under the sun. But what makes it yours is your method, your you're the messenger, right? It's you that makes it special and unique. And even if I were to learn your technique and try to fully do it, I still couldn't do it like Scott Catamas,
No, thank you.
right?
That reminds me of a cool story. You might be familiar with the author Richard Bach. He wrote Jonathan Livingston Seagull and Illusions and A Bridge Across Forever. Super popular author back in the 80s and 90s, and my favorite author. And when I was producing television shows, I met almost all of the New Age authors, many of whom I still work with on Saturday Night Live, Neil Donald Walsh.
Oh
Anyway,
yeah.
I met Richard Bach. And if you're not familiar, Jonathan Livingston Seagull was this huge best-selling book.
Okay.
Um, and the story is that he had this seagull that kept landing where he was living, and literally the seagull told him this story, which Richard Bach put into a book, sent it off to a publisher. It becomes this huge runaway bestseller, and all of a sudden, Richard Bach's got all this money coming into him. And he felt guilty. He felt like he didn't deserve it
Mm,
because he had just channeled this from a bird, right?
right.
And so he's kind of blowing through the money and not really dealing with it. And he went to go see Jane Roberts, who was a very famous psychic at the time, who channeled Seth. And
Yes.
right.
Yeah.
And so all the Seth books were channeled by Jane Roberts.
Right.
So Richard Bach goes to visit Jane Roberts and Seth. And Seth says, yes, it was channeled information. From one perspective, everything is channeled because there's only one unified field of consciousness and everything is channeled.
Yeah.
But it took your trusting and believing that you could listen to a bird. It took your unique ability to see it, experience it, take the time, put it into writing, add your own embellishments, add your own languaging. And then here's the punchline, Therese. He said, to deny your own creative expression, even if it's completely channeled, is to deny God itself. Because that is what God truly is. God is everything coming through our unique vehicle, in how we express it.
I'm like on the verge of tears, and I've got like the full body shivers going on, because literally right before getting on this call with you, I asked God in, I said, make me a vessel. I want to hold the space for whatever you desire this to be. And so when you said that, it was like instant heart confirmation. I was just like, oh. So thank you for that. Is powerful. Okay.
Yeah.
I gotta pull myself together, but that is
No,
powerful, Scott.
that is beautiful. And it's, if we can really learn to experience ourselves that way.
Mm,
Um, my mantra is I am a clear channel for spirit to flow through. And I've run that mantra through my mind thousands and thousands of times. And when I'm coaching somebody, there have been many times in my life where I'm coaching someone and it's God life sends me hard cases often. And there have been times I've been working with people, oh, I just didn't know where to go next. And so I'll close my eyes and I'll run that mantra, I'm a clear channel for spirit to flow through. And literally, Teresa, I've experienced my mouth opens, words come out. It's not coming from my logical brain figuring it out, it's coming from somewhere else.
yeah.
And it's always what needs to happen next or what that person needs to hear. Including, I had an experience, I was working with a woman, super not new agey, businesswoman, New York, Madison Avenue, high class kind of woman.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and she was in tremendous grief and guilt that she hadn't flown from New York to San Francisco to be with her father when her father died.
Mm,
Really upset about it. And I'm kind of not, one of those moments, I'm not sure what to do. So I kind of close my eyes, I'm on the mantra. Next thing I know, my mouth opens. The spirit of her deceased father is talking through me to her, saying things that Scott Catamas had no idea about, that only she and her father would understand and know. I mean, and literally Scott, like the me that's talking to you right now, I'm kind of sitting here watching how this experience is happening through my body, right?
mm,
And through my
yeah.
mouth and through my vessel, but completely not from my logical brain. And so I can't sit down and make that happen. I want to
No.
be clear.
Yeah.
But when we make ourselves a clear channel for spirit to flow through, we learn when to let go and let spirit really run the show.
Yeah.
And sometimes it is up to our logical brain. It is up to what I've learned as a coach or learned in my life. Like right now, I'm recounting stories, right? So it's not really spirit flowing through me. I'm in my memory recounting stories. But then there's other times that just when you don't know what to do, just let spirit take over.
I have to interject and say I do feel like you did channel through, because what we talked about, what we're talking about being this open channel, was directly related to my personal experience before getting here.
Fair
And
enough.
it's
Fair
speaking
enough.
directly to me. So
Yeah. Yeah.
you're doing it now.
Okay, fair enough. I'll accept and acknowledge. And you're right. What I just was meaning was I wasn't like in a
Right,
you
exactly.
know, right. But there it is. It's like the more that we do it, the more we integrate following the flow, following what It's when people gather and they're going to create something. I love the idea that what we do is we start by just asking collectively what wants to happen here. In
Mm,
this moment, how does life want to use this unique moment that Therese and Scott are together making something that'll be heard by other people?
yeah.
So, what do those other people want to hear? How can we be of service? What wants to happen here? And I think both you and I, although we didn't do it consciously, I think we both have that commitment, and so that's why the magic's happening.
Yeah, I love that. And you're using one of my favorite words. Magic is happening right now. And it's taking me off. I've got my script here, by the way. Just like I got my script, but it's taking me off script, and I love it, because now the question that's forming for me is, maybe that's how easy it could be to create the experience on earth we desire. I mean, I see us talking about it so much. This is a very like hot topic, right? To talk about how are we going to create
Mm.
this next level of experience where we're finally healing all the trauma that we've collectively gone through and moving, we're moving into the healing, but also into the expansion that we're meant to be moving into. And as I'm hearing you talk about this, how does it feel when I say to you, maybe it's that easy that we just open ourselves up to that experience? How's that resonate for you?
It's a fabulous question. Um, I would love to have a few hours for us to talk about it
Yeah. Okay.
because it's such a big question and
Hmm.
there's so many different angles to look at it from.
Yeah.
Uh, so let's start at the very, very biggest perspective.
Sure.
I believe this is a dream world, and
Hmm.
that ultimately, at the biggest level, we are, as individuals, having a dream within a collective dream, within a bigger dream, and so on.
Yes.
I think if you ever go see the movie Inception, that hit it because it's like people walked out of the movie theater blown away because on some level it was reminding us of the truth that we're having a
Mm.
dream within a dream within a dream within a dream.
Yeah.
Certainly, when any of us die and leave our body and we wake up from the individual dream into the bigger dream, that's when we go, oh, wow, I just had an earth life. I just had an earth dream. And in that moment, we are back in oneness, right? So
Mm.
there's that level of it.
Yeah.
For it to happen in group consensus reality will probably take longer. Um, I don't want to limit the option or the life, and maybe not. Maybe there'll be an instant, maybe there will be a momentary instant where we all wake up collectively. And boy,
Right. Rooting for
I,
that one.
yeah, I sign up for that in a second.
Right.
Absolutely. But here's the other side of it. I'm trying to take something very complex and make it.
Yeah.
It's also important for us not to use that possibility as a spiritual bypass to avoid taking responsibility for playing our role in planetary transformation and having compassion for the very real suffering.
Right.
Because there's very real suffering taking place. There's probably going to be increased suffering. And I feel that it's important for us, even if we have 100% certainty that it's all God, it's all love, it's all going to be okay, to still connect to human beings that don't have that experiential knowing or don't have that belief, and to be available to provide as much compassionate understanding for their very real suffering
Right.
and not to avoid it because it's uncomfortable and to hide behind the bypass of our knowing of the bigger picture.
Right. Well, and you're reminding me of both in the Law of One and in Dolores Cannon's material. And I know you've actually spoken to Dolores Cannon. I want to
Yeah.
ask you about that. But in both of those materials, they talk about our desire to come into this dream, right? Our desire to come into this dream, and that the suffering we're experiencing here is catalyst.
Mhm.
It's catalyst to get us to make choices. And I'm hearing you talking about the choices we can make here, right? There's an option to try and bypass, but that seems to be kind of maybe even against what our soul's purpose is for coming. We come here to experience. Do you agree?
Yes, and even more specifically, I firmly believe we come here to learn lessons of love.
Yeah.
Um, I've done a lot of television shows and recently for Saturday Night Live and the Awakening World shows on death and near-death experiences. And it's something I feel pretty knowledgeable of because I've interviewed every major researcher, teacher, or almost everyone that's in that field. And the bottom line is that when people have a legitimate near-death experience, if they are shown the meaning of life, they remember the meaning of life, it's always, I'm here to learn to love. Um, Now, each person might have their own unique caveat. right? I'm here to learn to love even though I'm an alcoholic, or I lost my legs in the car accident, or my wife left me, or my business went out of whatever. Um, and as a coach, and I first learned this 25 years ago, that, oh, the meaning of life is to learn to love, starting with ourselves.
Mhm.
Well, I've coached thousands of people since then. And in coaching people, I get to know, oh, wow, Julie is here to learn to love herself, even though she has a chronic condition that keeps her overweight. Oh, Joe's here to love himself, even though, his wife left him and he's still in love with her. Or whatever it is, even though, and so anybody listening, if you were here to learn to love yourself, if you accept that as the meaning of your life, what's your unique challenge? What's your unique disillusionment? What is it that has happened in your life that's hard, that is in the way of you learning to love yourself? And when people, and sometimes when I share that with a client or a friend, the light bulb goes off. Other times people need to self reflect on it for a while. Okay,
Mm.
if I'm here to learn to love myself, what does that journey look like? Am I clearly on that journey? Or am I distracted with drugs, alcohol, ways to, which is perfectly human. I'm
Yeah.
not judging that. But oftentimes we will avoid looking at the things we need to look at in order to truly love ourselves. And self love is not selfish.
Right.
The ironic thing is the more we authentically love ourselves, the more we give. People who love themselves in a healthy way are not selfish. They are the people that contribute at a high level, because the greatest joy in life is contributing to the well being of others. People who are selfish are people who don't love themselves. They've got a gaping hole, and so that's why they are constantly grasping for stuff or other people's energy to fill the black hole of Calcutta that's inside of themselves.
Yeah. No, you're so spot on. I mean, I completely agree with that statement. I keep um, reminding my clients that I work with, like, there's so many people desire to be the on the service of others' path, and I believe there's actually quite a few of us that are on the service to others' path. And yet I remind them that martyrdom wasn't asked of us. We weren't asked to cut ourselves out of it. It's not unity if you don't include yourself.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's most of us were raised in Judeo Christian culture, which absolutely teaches martyrdom, teaches, that it's spiritual to suffer.
Right.
It's not spiritual to be abundant. Um, for people raised in Christianity, we're worshiping a guy who was crucified, tortured, and crucified and had a horrible death for our sins. What?
And that's the example that we're supposed to follow too.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
I've always fantasized, I wish I'd grown up in a church where instead of a guy hanging on a cross, suffering for my sins, there was Jesus and Mary Magdalene and Yab Yum. And that's who we were worshiping. Now, wouldn't that be
Yeah.
a cool church?
That would be a very cool church. And if they were smiling and happy and like
Yeah, and
embracing,
Yab Yum, joy,
right?
absolutely. The divine masculine, the divine feminine as equals, you know, that's the church that, where we wouldn't be growing up with all this shame.
Yeah. So it's so true. So let's talk about then, if we're here to learn the lessons of love, and I love that. It feels very aligned with what A Course in Miracles says too.
Yeah.
That's the basis of the teaching, right? The lessons of love. So if we're here to learn the lessons of love, how does that integrate with the idea of leadership? So, but wait, before we answer that question, let me take it one step back and ask you, how would you define leadership?
Well, certainly now, and I've watched this transformation in my life. Uh, Now leadership is absolutely walking the talk, walking with, and being humble, serving as an inspiration, and recognizing that we all can learn from each other. Um, Certainly, leadership has always been around courage, and courage to be yourself, courage to be authentic. It used to be courage in battle. For thousands of years, we lived in a realm where leadership was courage in battle and the courage in accumulating power.
Mm.
Now, as we shift from reptile brain reactive survival times, which is where we were for thousands of years, we're now moving into frontal lobe thriving times.
Mm.
And the frontal lobe is built on connection to compassion and seeing the big picture, right?
Yeah.
So it's no longer leadership being the bigger reptile, being the guy who can kill everybody else and be the biggest dinosaur, but now it's the Dalai Lama. Um, I'll give you a wonderful story.
Yeah.
The Dalai Lama allowed brain researchers to hook up electrodes to his brain, and they tracked how his brain worked. And what they discovered that was remarkable was that at all times, regardless of the stimulus, his synapses were firing up here in the frontal lobe and the temporal lobe. That's where the empathy center of the brain is and the observer part of the brain. Now, it's back here is where the reptile brain is, right? That's
Okay.
our survival reactive center, which for thousands of years is where we had to live because we were in constant survival. Okay, so they're doing this research with the Dalai Lama, and towards the very end, they decided to really test him. So they showed him pictures of Chinese soldiers burning down a Tibetan temple. And they asked him, "What are you thinking? How do you feel when you look at these pictures?" And as he looked at the photos, he wept. He didn't stuff his emotions. Synapses continued to fire up here. Finally, they decided to take it one final step. They said, "I want to know, what are you really thinking? What are you really feeling when you think about Chinese soldiers raping Tibetan women, murdering your Tibetan people? What goes on for you?" Dalai Lama gets quiet, silent, goes into a reflective state. Synapses continue to fire up here, not back here. And finally he says, "It reminds me that I must pray equally for the Chinese as I do for my Tibetan people."
Wow.
This is leadership in today's age. This is my answer to your question. Leadership before was, "I'm going to kill this friggin' Chinese. We have to become more powerful. We have to build a bigger army. We have to defeat the Chinese." Now it's, "I must pray equally for the Chinese as I do for my people." The big picture, rooted in empathy, not rooted in overpowering. This is leadership in the new age.
Oh, that is so good. I just need to absorb that for a moment. It reminds me of how a wolf pack works. The alpha wolf will actually walk behind the entire pack. It doesn't lead the pack in front. That's the beta wolves in front, who are the navigators. The alpha will walk behind because it's the strongest. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's protecting the most vulnerable.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Someday,
Nature.
remind me to tell you about I have two totem animals. One is a bee and one is a wolf. So someday, not now, but someday
Oh,
privately.
we definitely have to. I love this conversation. Absolutely. I would love to know that. Um, Thank you for that. That's so inspiring. I love the story about the Dalai Lama. It reminds me of, I really feel like during the pandemic, that really switched on, like turned up in me. The empathy model really just opened up. And it got me thinking about, we've seen so much polarity, right? So much contrast. And as we're moving up in consciousness, I think that's a part of it. It's sort of like my team, my spiritual team, that's what I call my guides. They sort of explain it to me like we're in a detox cycle right now. And so in order to see things clearly, polarization becomes stronger. But we don't
Mm-hmm.
have to engage in polarization. It's happening so we can view it. And,
Yes.
and we can
Yes.
still hold it all. And so that story that you shared about the Dalai Lama, just, it's a beautiful example of how to do that.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah. And I think you're right. I mean, obviously, what we're seeing in certain political leaders, certainly with Putin, we really are seeing a very old paradigm versus the new paradigm. I mean, Zelensky is such a new paradigm leader, and Putin is such an old paradigm leader. It's a pretty fascinating story that's playing out for the world, and painful,
Yeah.
with a lot of suffering. But it's like, oh wow, okay, look at these two different ways of leadership.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's like it's all, the whole drama is unfolding in the outside, where it's like that inner drama is really unfolding into the outside world so we can see it. And even though it's incredibly painful and there is a lot of suffering, I always try to look for what's the opportunity here. There's always an opportunity
Yeah.
in our challenges.
Beautiful, Therese. That's beautiful.
So I think that for those who have the eyes to see, we can see the opportunities in front of us. And I think, again, we're all holding a piece of wisdom, and our special piece of wisdom refracts the world differently. It's our perspective, right? Is our perspective. And I've been taught by my own spiritual team to really honor perspective, because the whole goal is to recognize, be humble enough to realize you're holding one piece of the puzzle, and be curious enough to want to meet all the other pieces that you can, so that
I
you
love
can
that.
see as much of the picture. You're never going to see the whole picture unless, like you said, we have that beautiful instant where we somehow all just merge in a beautiful energy where the puzzle gets put together and we all have the big aha moment. But in our lifetime, we can try to meet as many pieces of the puzzle as possible, hold our pieces together. Like, this is what we're doing right now. I'm taking my perspective, you're taking yours. We're putting it together and we get to see a little bit more of the picture.
I love that.
um yeah, yeah, this is, yeah, so I love it. Thank you so much for everything that you're sharing. I have so many questions for you, and I also want to be respectful of your time. um I'm going to just take a moment here and see what, there's so many questions. Well, actually, my burning question for you, I spoke with you, a while back when we were chatting, and I told you that I had I'm also a medium, and I had contact with Dolores Cannon afterlife. And you said you've had contact with her in life. So I just have to know, like, what was the context of you speaking with Dolores, and what did you guys talk about?
First of all, it was decades ago, because it was when I was working as a producer on a television show called Strange Universe, and she was one of our guests.
Wow.
And so boy, I wish you were asking me about Michael Beckwith or Neil Donald Walsh or
I want to know about all of them.
somebody I'm still in regular contact with, and I could
Okay.
give you, all sorts of wonderful stories. Dolores, I probably spoke to her maybe two or three times as we were setting up the interview, and I really don't have much memory other than she was a sweet lady.
Yeah.
Um, I'm sorry. I've got great stories to tell, but I don't really have a great
You
Dolores Cannon story.
okay, that's fair enough. Fair
Yeah,
enough. But there are a lot of people that you're in contact with who are quite notable. Let's talk about Neil Donald Walsh, because one of my favorite books that he ever wrote was Friendship with God. That book changed my life. I love that book. So, what was your favorite, or what is your experience with Neil Donald Walsh and his teachings? How has that impacted you?
um, well, I'll speak about Neil for a moment because
Yeah.
I've worked with him a lot recently. He's been on The Awakening World and Saturday Night Live several times. And he also we did a full 2 hour conversation for Global Peace Tribe with just Deborah and I interviewing Neil. He's very humble. He's very, very humble. And what I'm sharing is what he's shared with us publicly,
Yeah.
that he's hard on himself, that he feels he's brought through this incredible wisdom that has affected millions of people who've read the books, and he gets hard on himself that he isn't further along in his own evolution. Um, and and that there's a beauty to that. And I think what it reminds me of, the motto for my company, Love Coach Academy, our motto is how perfectly human.
Mm,
Now, I think most of us by now recognize we are spiritual beings, we're multidimensional beings having a human experience. And within that human experience, we're all perfectly human. And that usually shows up with us having some sort of shame, some sort of guilt that we aren't further along, that we, whatever it is, right? It
yeah.
comes back to learning to love myself, even though I'm overweight, or I didn't make $1 million, or my wife left me, or whatever the story is. And Neil typifies that. I mean, here's somebody who's had such deep conversations with God that he was able to put them on paper multiple times and have it become best-selling books. And he's still struggling. He's still working it out as a human being. And is honest about that and humble about that. And so I guess what I just want to convey is whoever we are, whether you're a best-selling author or figuring out how to raise 3 kids on, a limited amount of money, we're all working it out. We're all trying to figure out how to be a better person,
Mm.
how to live up to our values more effectively, how to be better at whatever it is we're wanting to be better at.
That's beautiful. And it only makes me love him more to
Yeah.
hear that because it's so
Yeah.
human. It is
Yeah.
so human. It is the eternal struggle, right?
Yeah.
Of enoughness. I think a lot, I mean, you as a love coach probably experience that from many people. The the feeling of I'm not enough wherever I
Totally.
am.
Totally. I would say that 99.5% of the people I've met have some sort of a I am not enough somewhere in their life.
Wow.
Um, it's great. Shame is the great human epidemic. Um,
Mm,
and so, just as a way of introducing love coaching for a minute, since you're a
yeah.
coach, so people go, well, what's the difference between love coaching and traditional therapy? And in traditional therapy, God bless those therapists, they've spent years going to college, studying how to evaluate and diagnose what's wrong with you.
Mm,
And there's a certain value to that, but that's not what love coaching is. In love coaching, we take the approach that there's nothing wrong or broken about anybody. No one's broken. And we avoid evaluations and diagnosis and instead help people remember their divinity, remember how beautiful they truly are, regardless of their mistakes, their history, their past, or whatever their not enoughness might be. And through compassionate understanding of how hard it is to be a human being,
yeah.
how hard it is to have a healthy relationship, how hard it is to balance all the different parts of our life, and to have compassionate understanding of that, and to have compassion for ourselves and each other is at the foundation of love coaching.
I love that. That is such a breath of fresh air because I know so many people who need to hear that message right now, right? We live in an Instagram world where we all assume everybody's got their shit together.
Nobody has their shit together. Don't. Look, we're in Zoom. We're all wearing pajama bottoms and slippers.
You outed me. Stop it. But it looks so good
We
from
look
here.
great from up here, but you don't know what's going on down below.
It's so true. But we're showing up. And
But we're
that's the
showing up.
important part.
We are showing up.
We are showing up. And I just thank you for just saying that to people because I think that, yeah, I mean, when it comes to relationships, especially too, we've got all of these ideals out there. And we're all also trying to front on some level. We're trying to put on our public face where it's all we're fine, everything's together, there's no problems. And behind the masks were all crying, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. When I coaching people who are dating, I say, find out, what are you looking for? If you're just looking for a good time for a night, then sure, go ahead and play the fantasy and present yourself however you want to. But if you're really looking for long-term friendship, and certainly if you're looking for healthy partnership, lead with what your issues are. My friend Kika has a great line. She says on her first date, if she's really interested in somebody, she says, okay, before we have sex, I want to know what's your shit that's going to drive me crazy 6 months from now.
Wow.
And if you can't answer that question, we're not having sex.
That is an amazing boundary. I love that. That clears
Right?
things up pretty well.
Yeah. And that's Kika. So I want to give all the credit for that one goes to Divine Kika. Mine is, what are our veils of past pain? What are the areas of my life where I'm wounding that stops me when that veil of past pain comes down, that stops me from seeing you clearly, or seeing the world clearly, or seeing even another gender clearly? Because I still am working on my mother wound, or my father wound, or my first husband wound, or my most recent girlfriend wound.
Yeah.
And what are our wounds? And what are those veils of past pain that come down? And in my course, I teach people how to get in touch with those veils of past pain, or when I work with clients. And again, not from the point of view that you're wounded or broken, but wow, you had this big ouch, and I want to help you understand the ouch and how the ouch impacts you, not because you're broken or wounded or fucked up, but because of, wow, you've got an ouch, you got an owie. And let's talk about the owie, right?
You're coming from that fourth density consciousness. You're coming from the love vibration itself, right? So fourth density being connected to the heart chakra,
Yeah.
being the love vibration itself. And what I'm hearing you say is that I'm looking at, how do I want to say this? It's like I'm taking on what's best for you as if it's best for me, because it is, because I'm recognizing our collective connection to each other. And when I start considering what's best for you and taking it on as what's best for me, that brings us to another level of connection and relationship. People finally get to breathe around each other.
What you just said is so true. And it's a good example of your earlier question about new leadership. New leadership isn't when you're talking to somebody who's heartbroken, telling them what to do. It's saying, oh my God, this is what I did when I was heartbroken, right? This is how I deal with heartbreak, right? And it's human to human, heart to heart, person to person, as opposed to smarter person talking to dumber person.
Right. Right. And it reminds me of, I think it was Brene Brown that was talking about how empathy is being able to sit with someone in it rather than trying to fix them. We're sitting with them.
Can I share with you my a lovely little story about that?
I love it. Yes.
So this is a fable of how Jesus healed the leper,
Mm.
and it speaks to what you just brought up. In my way of seeing it, in Scott's fable about Jesus, when Jesus saw the leper, he approached the leper very gently and asked, may I sit with you and may we speak? Now, that right off the bat was unlike what almost any leper had ever experienced, because most people, when they saw a leper, ran away or threw rocks at them. Here's this beautiful man coming and asking, can I sit with you? Can we speak? I mean, that in itself is like a total paradigm shift, a
Yeah.
total pattern disrupt. The leper says, well, okay. And they sit and they just converse. And Jesus listens, empathizes, and the leper begins to feel more and more safe to share his discomfort, the pain, the physical pain, the emotional pain. And Jesus just listens and listens and listens. And for the leper, this experience of just being heard is so healing. And Jesus empathizes and feels with him the pain and feels with him the suffering. And after however much time it takes until Jesus trusts that the leper feels safe and feels connected, then and only then, and maybe it took 10 minutes and maybe it took 10 hours, but once that quality of profound safety and connection has been made, Jesus asked another question. He asked the leper, "Can I show you what I see when I look at you?"
Mm.
Now, again, that's a really scary question, but because Jesus had created so much safety, so much connection, so much empathy through listening, I was, well, okay. And then Jesus drops in and sees the divine blueprint underneath the disease of the leprosy,
Mm.
under the physical illusion of the leprosy. And Jesus' ability to see the divine perfection was so profound, so great, and the connection created was so profound that Jesus' ability to see the beauty, the divinity underneath the suffering is how the healing took place, because the leper remembers who he truly is. But the step is what you pointed to, the Brene Brown's. We have to lead with empathy. Jesus
Yeah.
didn't come charging up and go, "I'm Jesus and I can heal you," right?
Right. Can you
"I'm
imagine?
Tony Robbins." Oh, sorry. Um, no, he sits and he empathizes and he creates connection and he acknowledges the suffering first. And for those of us that are coaches and healers, we so want to jump to the fixing part. You
Yeah,
know, we, as friends, we're hearing a story. We so want to fix our friend. We so want to heal our client. But we have to start by creating connection through empathic listening. And that's, again, a
absolutely.
big part of love coaching.
That is, let's talk about that. Let's go deeper into love coaching, because there is an opportunity for people when they hear this to actually get to work with you. If this is something that's lighting you up while you're listening to Scott, there's actually an opportunity to work with Scott. Um, and let's talk about that. So how can we connect with you so that we can hear more? Because honestly, an hour is not enough with you. I'm sorry, but I should have
Oh,
said 2 hours.
we can do another one. We can do another.
I would love to.
I'm really enjoying your company.
Oh, thank you.
Um, So, yeah, if somebody's interested in learning the tools of love coaching, and most of the people who come my way are either people that already are massage therapists or doctors, healers of some sort, who want to learn my skills, my particular tools.
Yeah,
Or sometimes it's just people that want to have great relationships. Again, remember, life is relationship. So, we'll give them a link where they can get a 20-minute consultation. I do send, when they send me the request for consultation, I send a little inquiry where, people need to fill out so I know that they're serious. Um, and then we schedule a time and we spend 20 minutes together. And, sometimes 20 minutes becomes 30 or 40. Um, and that's where I find out where they're at. I try to always make sure that I give everybody at least some gift, some tool, some practice that's going to improve the quality of their life, even if it's not appropriate for them to become part of Love Coach Academy. Um, and that's how we do it.
that's so beautiful. And I honestly feel like the foundation of what you're teaching and coaching can be translated beyond relationships. So if you're not necessarily called to coach relationships, I think that Scott's tools give you an excellent foundation for coaching. There's several things that you said, especially in your the metaphor you just told about Jesus, where I'm like, in my head, I'm like, Jesus was an awesome coach, number one. He was clearly an awesome coach and an amazing healer, because um what you're showing me, and I know this is part of what you teach because you're bringing it forward, is that you realize that your mission as a coach is to create that sacred space for healing to occur. You're not taking on the ego of I am the healer and I heal you. You are, I create the space for you to heal.
Thank you. You put it perfect. Absolutely
Yeah.
perfect, Therese. Thank
So
you.
I see so much value in checking out Scott's work and going there, especially if you're someone who's considering coaching. I think that Scott would be an incredible mentor for you to follow. He's got a great framework here. You can see he's got a beautiful heart. He's already vibrating at fourth density, I think. And like where could you be going? You're probably moving up to fifth already. You're
Well,
probably moving.
as long as I can still stay in the body enough to eat a peach and have a hug and, I kind
Wear
of
pajama bottoms.
wear my pajama bottoms, play with my dog.
There you go. All right. So one last question for you. This is a big one. If you could teach the entire world just one concept, what would it be?
I'll be right there. Just give me 2 minutes. Sorry, I have somebody who's
That's
at the door. That the meaning of life is that we are here to learn to love, starting with ourselves, and to dedicate every day to how can I make life more wonderful for the people around me? How can I reduce judgments and enemy images of others or of myself and replace that with seeking to compassionately understand?
yeah, I love that. Imagine if even just 10% of us started doing that more,
Mm-hmm.
what a difference we could make.
Yeah.
So hopefully, as we're all listening to this, we'll take that in and see if we can start moving the energy through that. Well, Scott, I want to thank you so much for
My
giving
pleasure.
graciously of your time.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Absolutely. And let's do it again. Let's do it
Oh,
again.
yes, please.
I
Yes,
would like that.
please.
I would like that.
All right.
All
To
right.
all those watching, thank you so much for being with us. And I look forward to seeing you at the next interview in the New Earth Leadership Summit.
Great.
All right.
Teresa.